Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this Friday morning for our Food Focus Talk Shop series, where we unashamedly talk shop. And so today we've got a great lineup of speakers from all around the world, in fact, that will be chatting to us about a very, very interesting development. And so I'm sure you can't wait to meet the CRC team. We'll give you just a couple of minutes to settle in while everybody makes themselves at home for today's talk shop. Trust you got a cup of coffee, trust you got a notepad so you can make some important notes and ask some questions at the end of the talk shop today. So settle in as we just give everyone a couple of minutes to join us. Thanks. Without further ado, I'd like to just introduce to you the CRC team. As you can see, we've got the whole team out today, and Louis and Rick are both in South Africa. Iain is coming to us from Australia, and Steve is coming to us from New Zealand. So thank you, gents, for joining us today. I know for those of you down under, this has been an extremely long Friday because of the time difference, but we do really appreciate you staying up to be with us and to share this very important information. We obviously appreciate that the food industry is under a huge amount of pressure, and although today's the part washing system is not used exclusively within the food industry, obviously as Food Focus, it's definitely the area that we would like to try and provide as much information on as possible. And the food industry has been under a huge amount of pressure in the last few months with the pandemic, in addition to trying making sure that we've actually got food on our tables despite lockdown restrictions. The burden of ensuring that our employees are kept safe has become almost a competing responsibility when it comes to food safety. And it's really important that although food safety remains our #1 priority, that we do look at our management systems with an integrated approach. If we look at the annual reports of large companies, we'll see that environmental management is becoming a driver on their sustainability reporting. In fact, there's even been a lot in the news recently about major banks looking to rather invest in sustainable investments. And what does environmentally sustainable really look like? Food companies must be doing the right things and not just greenwashing our efforts anymore. And today's discussion is really going to be talking about how you could make a meaningful difference in your waste streams, but not only waste streams, but also occupational health and safety, making sure that people that are involved with part washing are kept safe, and that the process of part washing doesn't in any way cause a food safety implication. And so the team is going to be giving you a detailed understanding of exactly how this piece of equipment works. And also, Iain and Steve will be talking to us about some case studies that they've undertaken in both Australia and New Zealand, so you can see the practical application in a sector that you may be involved with. But before we get down to the presentation, I'd like you to watch this video, which is a corporate video, which gives you an overview of what this piece of equipment can do. And so let's have a look to see.
We've seen it utilized for some of the most significant environmental disasters in history. Bioremediation is the environmental marvel that uses the tiniest cleanup crew for tackling some of the toughest jobs.
Bioremediation is the treatment of pollutants or waste by using microorganisms that consume and break down undesirable substances into harmless byproducts. It's nature's way of cleaning the environment. First commercial use of bioremediation was used in the early 1970s on a toxic chemical spill in Pennsylvania. Bioremediation was also used to clean up major oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska.
In addition to the application for massive cleanups, bioremediation is used every day to help clean wastewater treatment ponds in petroleum refineries and industrial manufacturing sites around the world. And today it's being used in the process of cleaning manufacturing machinery and heavy-duty industrial equipment. In fact, more businesses are using environmentally sound practices like this in the repair and maintenance of their equipment.
Bioremediation cleaning techniques are highly effective, safer for employees, better for the environment, and can provide significant or substantial cost savings compared to other traditional cleaning methods.
They may not be visible to the naked eye, But the naturally occurring microorganisms in bioremediation are the muscles behind this safe and eco-conscious cleaning process, and the innovators at CRC Industries have harnessed this power in something they call the CRC Smartwasher.
The CRC Smartwasher is a bioremediating parts washer system that's used to clean dirty equipment parts during maintenance and repair operations. The system combines three essential components: the Smartwasher parts washer, the Aussie Juice cleaning fluid, and the Aussie Matte filter that contains a proprietary blend of microbes. The Smartwasher heats and circulates the Aussie Juice, and the Aussie Juice cleans the parts. The Aussie Matte releases the microbes into the cleaning fluid that break down grease, oil, and carbon-based contaminants, creating a self-cleaning system that does not generate hazardous waste. Smartwasher system harnesses the power of nature to deliver exceptional cleaning performance while also eliminating the need to handle or dispose of hazardous waste, making it a safer choice over traditional solvent parts washers.
CRC is a manufacturer of specialty formulations and products for the maintenance and repair professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Our company started in a Pennsylvania garage in 1958 and has grown into a worldwide leader as we sell our products in over 120 countries around the world. We have a strong history of innovation due to our core focus on identifying unmet needs in the marketplace and providing differentiated solutions to our customers. We've been first to market with many industry-leading products, such as CRC Brake Clean, the #1 selling brake parts cleaner in the world. Our passion for innovation continues today with our global initiative of introducing and developing eco-friendly products based on sustainable technologies such as bioremediation. This reinforces our commitment to making sure health and safety of our users and the environment are at the forefront. The CRC Smartwasher is a safe and effective cleaning system that is easily accessible to all professionals around the world for their everyday jobs. The Smartwasher is used in a wide range of applications, from heavy manufacturing, agricultural, and construction, to military operations, service industry, vehicle maintenance, and also to small garages and homes with the introduction of our newest Smartwasher model, the Benchtop Pro.
The patented CRC Smartwasher was the first fully functioning parts washing system to utilize a proprietary bioremediation process. It breaks down organic contaminants and converts them into harmless byproducts of water and carbon dioxide. The system is water-based, non-toxic, non-flammable, non-corrosive, and only produces non-hazardous waste. It's this level of eco-innovation that keeps the company ahead of the competition.
We're continuing to expand our environmentally preferred products portfolio across the globe. By following the high standards associated with the CRC Smartwasher system, these products have high quality, low risk formulation that really improves the product's performance for the user while also reducing the environmental impact. As part of this initiative, we will educate consumers through the high effectiveness and the environmental friendliness of options that exist in the market today. What we want to do is we want to create awareness around alternative chemistries that exist.
Thanks to our long history of success, and especially thanks to all of our CRC colleagues around the world, we will continue to innovate in our core products and services, and we will expand that innovation into areas such as our eco-friendly platforms.
To learn more about the CRC Smartwasher and other CRC products, visit us online today.
When we actually sent out the invite for the webinar, our strapline was Get Smart, Help Your Business Meet Sustainable Development Goals. And I think the video explained how that actual Smartwasher actually works. Just next click there. What we really want to do today is focus on how to replace the solvent parts washers. This has been a go-to solution for probably about 60 or 70 years. But unfortunately, these solvents are flammable, environmentally damaging, toxic for human consumption, and they're actually very difficult to dispose of. But let's have a quick look at Sustainable Development Goals. what is meant by these actual goals. At the World Summit on Sustainable Development held in New York in 2015, the UN came up with 17 goals, and the target date for this was basically 2030. The goal was created to combat climate change, pollution, and eradicate poverty. These were huge goals set. The 17 goals are integrated that they recognize action in one area and will affect the outcomes in others. And development must balance both social, economic, and environmental sustainability. The next clip there, Linda. You'll see that in the corner, this is actually summarized. What you're also looking at there, I must just tell you, are international recognized icons. So whenever you read people's reports, they tend to use those particular icons as their reference. But how does business actually get involved with this? Sustainable development goals are there to increase the positive and minimize the negative impacts. So if you look at the next slide there, you see a typical value chain, raw materials moving through suppliers right down to the end product. And what business can then do, they can decide where in the actual value chain can they apply or actually move towards meeting these goals. On the top end, we're looking at increasing the positive impact, and at the bottom, we're looking at minimizing the negative impact. Now, how do corporates actually report on this? Well, they use integrated reports, sustainability reports, and sometimes included in their financial reports. What we see in South Africa, we have got the King 4 on corporate governance, and the King 4 really highlights that it recognizes that sustainable development is an inseparable element of value creation. Let's just look at the food industry. In the food industry, in the past few years, there's been a huge emphasis on food safety. Quite rightly so. We've had some major impacts regarding that. But more recently, they're trying to develop a food safety culture in this industry. Well, I'm going to put it out there that food safety culture must incorporate both food safety and sustainability culture, because the two interrogate and they actually interact. Let's just look at a couple of examples here. When you look at Nestle in the Sustainable Development Report actually highlighted, they said they actually want to go for 17 goals, all of the goals. And they say they're for the individuals and families, for the communities, and for the planet. Let me just explain to you what they're actually saying there. When they talk about the individual and families, by 2020, the ambition is to help 50 million children lead healthier lives. Then the next goal that they set was for the communities. They reckon about 2030, ambitions to prove 30 million livelihoods in the communities directly connected to their business activities. And then the last one is about the planet. Our planet for 2030, the ambitions to strive for zero environmental impact in our operations. These are major, major goals set by a huge corporation. And let's all hope that they actually achieve it. Now look at something a bit closer to home, Tiger Brand. One of the key things that they put out in the sustainable report was send zero waste to landfill sites. Pioneer Food, the group's committed to diverting waste from landfill sites, huge emphasis on waste. Bidvest, one of the biggest corporations in South Africa, deals with automotive as well as food. They got a key one, it's to drive positive social change. So a summary of these takeaways out of sustainable development reports are things like improve work environments, eliminate carbon emission, reduce food waste, reduce negative impact of the countries where they operate, and reduce waste and water usage. But how does the Smartwasher actually fit into this? Well, we've analyzed the Smartwasher, and what we've come up with is that it can meet at least 8 of these sustainable development goals. 4 on the social side and 4 on the environmental side. And when you combine these actual goals that they actually meet, there's got a huge economic value proposition for companies, more so than just looking at a parts washer. What are these goals that we're looking at? Let's summarize some of these goals that we actually got there that we want to tick off. In goal number 3, it's all about good health and well-being. And the goal there is by 2030 to reduce by 1/3 premature mortality. And the mortality rate they attribute to is cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and chronic respiratory disease. And what we find here in South Africa, generally speaking, is that it's your unskilled, your semi-skilled, your junior artisans, and sometimes your artisans that actually end up cleaning the parts, and very often without the appropriate PPE. It's almost like companies developed a blind spot. This machine's been sitting there for 20, 30 years, and they continue to use it, giving it much thought. Another argument was raised is that solvent parts washers weaken the employee's respiratory system in the middle of a pandemic. It may create underlying medical conditions that weaken the immune system. Under goal 6, they talk about clean water and sanitation. Well, by 2030, to improve the water quality by reducing pollution, while solvent waste is a pollutant that could get into fresh waters, aquifers, rivers, and lakes. And we all talk about how do they actually dispose of solvents. And so, we realize that there's a couple of methods. They sometimes use the correct method, environmentally correct methods. Other times they dump these things. And that is your risk. They can get into areas, as mentioned there, such as aquifers and rivers. Number 8 is about decent work and economic conditions. This speaks directly to what we have actually spoke about at 3.41. You can see that impact there as to what's actually happening in practice. Let's go to the next one. And number 9, we talk about the 9th goal is industry innovation and infrastructure. By 2030, upgrade infrastructure and retrofit industries to make them sustainable with increased resource efficiency and a greater adoption of clean environmentally sound technologies. What we saw in the video, what the Smartwasher does, it's a perfect fit for that. Number 11 is about sustainable cities and communities. Again, a huge emphasis here is by reducing per capita environmental impact and other waste management. Again, the emphasis on waste management. And 12 is about responsible consumption and production. And 12.4 is in fact a key one here. The goal here is by 2020, this year, the year of COVID, they will hope to have achieved that the environmentally sound management of chemicals and waste throughout the life cycle will have a handle on it. Smartwasher speaks directly to this goal, the sound management of chemicals and waste, as opposed to continuing with this solvents pass washer. Number 13 is a bit more generic. Take action to combat climate change and its impacts. Number 14, conserve sustainable use of oceans as a sector. You can imagine if you're dumping solvents into rivers near the oceans, it's going to obviously have a negative impact as to where it actually lands up.
Absolutely. Louis, you know, as the National Sales Manager for CRC, I mean, I know we've been associated for a number of years now, and I know you've done a lot of really good work in the food industry in trying to help companies to manage chemicals that are used in food contact and in food production areas. And it's great to see this new innovation is now dealing with the waste aspect. You've mentioned some really big companies in South Africa, and you've mentioned important statements that are made at board level. Just tell me, in your experience in dealing with these companies on a day-to-day basis, are you seeing these big board statements actually realized on the shop floor in the maintenance warehouse, the workshop?
It's a good question, and sometimes I think there is a bit of a disconnect between what the board wants and what they see in the greater picture and what actually happens in practice. And we've seen that fairly often. That a Nestlé Sustainable Development Report comes out of Switzerland, and it talks about global operations. But and I'm not saying it's Nestlé, I'm just using this example. But very often you find big brands that set these goals, but it doesn't actually go down to where people are working. And as I said before, it's not deliberate. I think it's a bit of a blind spot that develops. People get so used to doing the things that they used to do for years and years that they don't actually give it the proper consideration. And this thing, never mind the health and safety aspect, but we've actually gone from the approach of a sustainable development.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, sometimes it's just a small change that's going to make quite a big difference. And so I'm really excited to bring online Steve Colson. And Steve is going to be chatting to us today as the CRC Global Program Director. And Steve, your passion is obviously this parts washing division, where you've, you know, spent a lot of time and effort in the last few years in really making people understand how they can do it better and making a small change that can actually make a really big difference to health and safety and also to the environment. Steve, over to you to tell us about what's happening in New Zealand.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, Linda. And yes, I've devoted probably 25 years of my life to the Smartwasher product, so it's a real passion of mine. I want to discuss some specific New Zealand case studies where CRC has brought together our customers' sustainability goals with the CRC Greenlight program and the CRC Smartwasher as a total solution for the respective companies. The first one I want to talk about is New Zealand's largest dairy company and the world's largest exporter of dairy products. We first introduced the Smartwasher through the company's fleet services division. The company has 480 tankers collecting milk from New Zealand dairy farms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
365 days a year. The customer asked CRC to evaluate their current practices and make sure that the products they were using were the latest compliant MRO products being used in their workshops. While we discussed appropriate Greenlight program products suitable for the milk contact area of the truck transfer systems, we noticed their solvent parts washers being used. We discussed the CRC Smartwasher as an alternative option with its non-toxic, non-flammable, reduced waste generation and other environmental benefits. The benefits of the CRC Smartwasher could deliver to all the company's corporate sustainability reporting goals at a management level. When we looked and monitored closer the solvent parts washers, we noticed the users were not following the health and safety guidelines put in place by the company when using the equipment, and only did so when management was around. So they were using their parts washers without gloves, without respiratory equipment, without aprons, which they should have been doing. With the Smartwasher system ticking the company's sustainability goals of health and safety, environmental and economic benefits, trials were held next to demonstrate the cleaning power of the Smartwasher. Convinced of all the benefits, the company became a leader in implementing Smartwashers through all the fleet services workshops and banishing solvent parts washers from their division entirely. Through the fleet services, this opened the door to the 30 production plants this company has New Zealand-wide. Plants that process raw milk and produce all manner of dairy products. After our success in the fleet services division and with the Greenlight program and the CRC Smartwasher, we rolled out the program to nearly all 30 of the plants. Now, just as an aside, I've been to a lot of food plants in my time, and one of the plants within this company produces cheese products for the fast food restaurants and supermarket chains Asia-Pac wide. Because of this, the plant gets audited over 52 times per year, sometimes having 3 or 4 simultaneous audits in 1 week. But because of the implemented CRC Greenlight program and their MRO products, they pass every time when it comes. And when it comes to the Smartwasher, the auditors know why the company moved to the CRC Smartwasher, and it gets an automatic tick of approval every time. The second case study I'd like to talk about is a global beverage company that produces wine in New Zealand and has a large bottling plant here as well. The customer was already using the CRC Greenlight program successfully, and the program was widely praised within the company. On a routine customer visit, we highlighted that their current solvent parts washer could be replaced with a CRC Smartwasher. When we discussed the benefits of making the change, the trigger points for this company were user health, waste reduction from the site, meeting their corporate sustainable development goals, and with the CRC Smartwasher being non-toxic, bioremediating and all-round environmentally friendly, we again ticked all of their boxes. The unit was purchased and installed, and not only at the bottling facility, but at the main vineyard workshop as well. Finally, the last case study I'd like to look at is one of New Zealand's leading meat processors and a large exporter. For ease of regulatory compliance and CRC's extensive food grade range of products, this company was already well into the process of moving completely to the CRC Greenlight program. As a leading exporter, they were heavily audited, and the Greenlight program gave them the security they required for those audits. During this time, we introduced the company to the CRC Smartwasher system and the benefits it provided. These were the benefits that ticked the boxes for this company. It met or exceeded their overseas customers' expectations of a clean and green New Zealand produced product. The use of products like the CRC Smartwasher shown to their international customers only enhanced that image and met their customers' expectation. This in turn creates a halo effect for the company and adds to strengthening their brand even further. They wanted to be a leader in the introduction of products that protected their workers' health, the environment, and by the extension of those 2 points, community safety as well. And finally, it met their cleaning expectations for the workshop teams, which in the end, this is a parts washer and it should do as well. This company has now completed a 90% rollout of the CRC Smartwasher system to its New Zealand-wide production facilities. I trust these examples of real-world companies successfully transitioning from the old solvent parts washer technology to the latest CRC offering, and the benefit it brings to local, regional, and multinational companies gives you insight to how some companies are dealing with their responsibilities, whether they have sustainability reports or not. Small changes like the CRC Smartwasher do make a difference long-term for the safety and environment of our communities. I will now hand over to my Australian colleague.
Thanks, Iain. That's great. I think just, I'm really interested to see that you've traveled around the world, looking to assist companies in these areas. And I really appreciate the practical components that you've brought across. And for me, it's really important that food safety was at the top of the list in every single one of those examples. So we'll chat to you soon. Steve, thank you so much for staying awake for us. We're now moving across the sea to Australia, where we're going to be chatting to Iain Faber, and he's the channel manager for CRC Industries Australia. Iain, I'm just really interested to note your experience when it comes to the auditing component. Now, I hate to just do things to tick an audit box, but I do think it is important to be able to provide sufficient data and evidence to support a due diligence approach when you are implementing something like this. So maybe you can take us through some case studies on the Australian side where you can particularly highlight those aspects. Iain, over to you.
Thanks, Linda, and well done, Steve. So we'll just kind of have a bit of a look now at how the Australian business kind of steps through not only the Greenlight program, but Smartwasher. So as Steve mentioned, the Greenlight program and Smartwasher go hand in hand for site maintenance and audit compliance. So why is Australian food manufacturing using CRC? So in Australia, the CRC Greenlight Risk Reduction Program and food grade range deliver ready-made HACCP audit compliance for food processing facilities in lubrication and maintenance departments. The Food Standards Code requires allergens to be declared on labels whenever they are present as ingredients or as components of food additives and processing aids. This has been driving change within Australia and the Australian market for some time. In Australia, 10 allergens need to be listed as part of their ingredients. So the CRC allergen certificates actually cover 25 allergens. So this opens Australian businesses up to be compliant for exporting globally. The CRC program and Smartwasher are risk reduction points. Shown here are some reasons why these businesses chose CRC. Minimising the risk of contamination from maintenance products which are HACCP Australia approved. The products make identification of compliance products easy, whether that's certified NSF, H1, M1, and safer choice for Smartwasher. All the cans are green, see a red can and it's easy to flag and check in the production facility. So training ensures proper product usage from CRC, ensuring you're using both the correct amount and type of product. So this integrates with existing HACCP systems on site with product compliance documentation, whether that's a technical data sheet, a safety data sheet, NSF certification, and allergen certifications. So the hazard analysis critical control point is a management system utilised by sites. And as Steve previously mentioned, they are both externally audited by government departments, supermarkets, leading global fast food businesses, and global food safety organisations. This is where CRC documents are easily available, so it's a quick and easy process to be audit compliant. The Smartwasher aligns with this improvement of process on site and helps to round out HACCP for maintenance process in food, beverage and dairy plants. The unit can be mobile, used for everyday maintenance, and also shut down on location maintenance part cleaning. Being both an effective cleaner of grease, oils and fats and audit compliance is part of the reason Australian businesses continue to use CRC Smartwasher. These businesses choose CRC products due to simple product names, conforming labels, SDSs under the labels, color-coded products. There's actually QR codes on the labels which will direct you to the website to be able to gain the required information. The cans have a Permalock actuator and locking straw on the top to remove buttons and straws as physical hazards in production areas. So we'll also look at these specific examples where the national ice cream manufacturer selected CRC due to ease of audit compliance supporting documentation, flexibility of the greenlight program to align with current on-site processes and programs, and the Smartwasher rounded out the audit compliance for them on sites. The national baker used reliability of supply of products, fit for purpose and compliance of the products, as well as Smartwasher maintenance area mobility and reduction of waste generation aligning with their sustainability goals. And Australia's largest poultry producers on a number of sites have used trusted products to reduce their number of vendors, as well as the national support and availability, and the Smartwasher was effective in being more convenient than their current site practices. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand back to Linda.
Thanks, Iain. Just a quick question. You've highlighted the sort of maintenance area in a number of your case studies. You know, when it comes to implementing some of these things, often the food safety team think it's a really good idea because of all the advantages that you mentioned, but the maintenance team don't always buy in. So I was very interested for you when I heard you say that it's actually an easier process than they were previously using. Do you find this is a major advantage as far as the maintenance team is concerned?
Well, I guess there's always barriers to maintenance people utilising new systems and new processes. So I guess the proof's in the pudding, as we say. When the maintenance people actually utilise a Smartwasher on site, whether it's through an on-site demonstration or through a visit from Rick, then you've got the ability to be able to use it on site in current manufacturing situations, and they're able to see how the unit actually works in real time.
Yeah, and as you say, the proof is in the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Rick, we're now going to come back to South Africa, and we're going to be hearing from you with regards to, the developments that you've had with respect to the Greenlight program within South Africa, and also how this Smartwasher system can integrate with the existing Greenlight programs that you've implemented in South African food businesses. Over to you, Rick.
Thank you, Linda. Well, as heard from the previous speakers, we can clearly see that that the other countries want to reduce risk and wish to meet all the sustainability goals. So in South Africa, as you said, we've also got a food safety risk reduction program, and that's well received by food industry. I'm sure some of attendees on this workshop seen our Greenlight program before. So on the slide, this is our 8 key pillars of our Greenlight food safety program. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what I want to highlight today is the fact that this program minimizes the risk of food contamination in terms of maintenance chemicals. We also know that these days the auditing gets so strict, and our Greenlight food safety program assists and simplifies your Q&A and QC auditing systems and programs in terms of your maintenance chemicals. We also know that your hazard program is one of your critical control points is maintenance chemicals in your hazard program. We do have plenty of good references over the past few years, and this program and products is definitely accepted by all auditing bodies. And I must say our program and products is compliant, and it meets all audit requirements from GFSI basic right through to FSSC 22000, BRC, Global Gap. Greenlight program, another leg of our Greenlight program, it's identification and visualization food safety program. We all know training is key. Training in SA become more and more important. So we as a team do on-site training and make sure that all staff understand the products and programs. Another leg of our program is site survey, lubrication survey, plant assessment, to make sure we cover all applications in and around the plant. So last but not least is our facility zoning. So facility zoning, that's a color-coded chemical management program. As a team, what we do, we identify the high-risk areas in a manufacturing facility, and by using different visual aids, we minimize the risk of a wrong chemical to enter the high-risk areas during production. This is also where the Smartwasher fits in perfectly. So, as on the opening video, you heard the solution we use is Aussie Juice. So the Aussie Juice got an NSF rating of A1, which indicates that this solution or degreaser is acceptable as a cleaner in and around the processing area in the inedible areas. So that means during maintenance, deep cleaning or shutdown, you're allowed to take the Smartwasher into the facility and go and wash parts. So to summarize what Louis mentioned about the Sustainable Development Goals, it's very important to understand that the Smartwasher improves working conditions for a safer working environment. It definitely reducing waste, management of chemicals, and the risk of solvent pass washes, good health and well-being, and clean water and sanitation. Steve and Iain also highlighted case studies or success stories in Australia and New Zealand, which clearly indicates that this program and machine works well globally. We by now know the negative impact of solvent parts washes, and not only on the environment, but also on the workers. So I've been on production facilities before where companies still not manage their solvents properly, and they still dump solvents either into drains or into the backyard. But on the other hand, I've been to companies that do dispose solvents on the right way by using a accredited third-party company. So this slide indicates that the Smartwasher, which is a water-based solution versus a solvents parts washer. So Smartwasher cleans just as quickly, it cleans more effectively, the operating cost is minimal, it has heated degreasing solution, it does not cause ill health effects, eliminates a known hazard under health and safety laws, which reduces the risk of fines for the company. It also reduces downstream waste. And on top of it all, I must say, the Smartwasher really cleans well and removes all your toughest greases, oils, sugars, salts, and dirt. So this slide clearly shows you that although we've been focusing on the food industry today, that the Smartwasher do fit into all these different sectors. So it's obviously your food and beverage industries, military, transport. We've got huge success with the Smartwasher over the last 3 years in South Africa. The automotive industry, fabrication, and industrial maintenance and repairs. We understand that a range of maintenance products is no longer enough, and that's why we have developed over 517 NSF listed products worldwide, which makes CRC a global leader. So this was only an overview of the Smartwasher and our exclusive Greenlight food safety program. So if you want to view the machine or have a demo on site and test it out, or you want our team to unpack the 8 pillars in our food safety program, you're welcome to contact myself or Louis to set up a meeting. Be smart and go green. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rick. A couple of questions. I would very much like to give this piece of equipment a go. I think it would be fun to actually test it. But there are a couple of maybe the awkward questions that I need to ask you. How much waste exactly is generated from this Smartwasher? We are saying that this can reduce waste, but surely there has to be some waste. Steve, what's the current waste component that a company would have to still deal with?
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, so with traditional solvent parts washers in a managed service contract or a company taking care of the solvents themselves, they will generally generate somewhere between 300 and 350 kilo of solvent waste per year. If treated properly, they may be able to gain back 100 kilo of recycled, and the rest is usually burnt in furnaces. With the Smartwasher and the bioremediation process, the filter mats we introduced, the Aussie mats to introduce microbes, They generate about 7 kilos of waste per year. And if we get any kind of sludge build-up at the bottom, that'll generate another 10 to 15 kilos. So somewhere between 7 and 20 kilo of waste per year per Smartwasher. So a huge reduction in waste, and that's what companies are looking for.
Wow, yes, yeah, I was like, gee whiskers, that is a big, big drop. Steve, the stuff that's left, so the sludge and the mats, you know, do I now have to pay a very expensive fee in order for these things to be dealt with as hazardous waste?
Great question. So the filter mat is can be treated like an oily rag. So wherever the company disposes of the oily rag, they can dispose of the filter. Okay. Because effectively that's all it is. It's a cloth 50 micron filter. The sludge that is generated yearly, if sludge is generated, remember that is only if sludge is generated, can be disposed of as watery surfactant waste, which is probably at the lower end of disposal costs. Yeah. So it's not a large amount of money that you would be looking at to dispose of that kind of waste if you generate that waste.
Yeah.
A lot of companies won't.
And I think, you know, at the end of the day, we may have companies that are disposing of the solvent waste incorrectly. So they're, you know, putting it down the drain, turning a blind eye to a practice that they definitely shouldn't be doing. Whereas here we can do something and make a big impact, you know, and also just improve our environmental practices. Rick, why is the fluid heated? And I mean, this almost seems a little bit counterintuitive because I'm using microorganisms in this process, the bioremediation process, but why would I want to heat it?
Well, Linda, obviously the Smartwasher do have an element in, and the solution heats up to about 40 odd degrees Celsius. I always look at the Smartwasher as the similar concept as washing dishes. So the hotter the water or solution, the more effective and quicker the cleaning. Also remember, heated Aussie juice keeps Aussie microbes eating at an optical level to clean the solution as quickly as possible. So warm Aussie juice or solution simply cleans better than cold Aussie juice. Another added benefit to warm solution is that it makes it more enjoyable to work with the solution during cold winter months when you're washing parts. So heating up your hands, eh?
Yep, I suppose there's definitely something to that. I always tell people that they need warm water to make people wash their hands. Okay, that makes sense. Iain, why this Aussie juice? That sounds like it's a very, you know, it can only be used in Australia. I think it's a very interesting name. Is it, you know, the Smartwasher and the Aussie juice? We're talking about microorganisms here, and now if I look at, you know, incidental food contact, what's that going to mean to my product? You know, could this in some way affect my product? Is it suitable for incidental food contact?
Yeah, I can obviously understand where you're coming from with that question, but I guess as portrayed in the documentation that we provide, not only with the unit and the fluid, it shows that if you wash every piece of equipment and parts as you normally would with the Aussie juice, then you rinse it in potable water. That encloses and encompasses everything that is part of the NSF certification. So it's a really easy process to be compliant with. There's really no additional steps, and it's really effective and safe. And it's been, I guess, reinforced on a number of sites within Australia. And I guess Steve would attest to it as well. With all the stringent testing that we have, not only in Australia and New Zealand that I'm aware of, we need to look after our export markets because that's where a majority of our products end up.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, you just highlighted a really important step. There is a potable water washing step that's required, but, you know, these solvents that we're currently using could be really, really nasty chemicals that if they're not rinsed properly, we could have other food safety problems where we've got, you know, very nasty chemicals being introduced into the process. So yeah, that washing step really important. Louis, if we come back to the big picture, so we've kind of gone down to a micro level as far as the piece of equipment works. If we take it back up to where you started with looking at sustainable development goals, you know, how would you advise a company to sort of look at reducing waste as a goal? What are the steps that they would need to go through?
Well, I think if you look at goals, be it sustainable development goals or any other goals, the way to manage a goal is to in fact measure it. So you need to be able to quantify what is the volume of waste that the companies currently trying to dispose of. And then they obviously look, you could benchmark against sustainable development goals to see what is a global, what are everybody trying to achieve, and then probably break it up and analyze and see what can you recycle, what can you reduce, and what can you actually avoid. So it comes back to any form of management. You want to, the old adage, if you actually want to progress and meet goals, you need to actually measure it all the way through. And this is why there's a bit of a timeline. Nobody expects everybody to do it instantaneously, but from a global perspective, and we've seen so many movies on pollution and what's happening out there, I think it's just in everybody's interest to reduce it.
Absolutely. Steve, another question for you before we say goodbye. A party would like to know, how often do you need to change the liquid? You know, I mean, this Aussie juice, what's the life of the Aussie juice? You were talking about sludge being produced. So how often do I change the fluid? That's the first question.
In a well-maintained system, you never throw away the fluid. You top up the fluid about every 6, 8, 10 weeks, depending on your usage, how many engineers, 24-hour operation versus 8. But you never throw away the fluid. It is there in situ. The only time you would need to throw it away is if it got heavily contaminated for some reason. But I've got people out there who have had the same fluid in their machines for 5 or 6 years. So the desludge process is removing that sludge at the bottom, which could be 3 or 4 litres, and then putting the old fluid back in and starting again. So you never throw away the good fluid.
Sure. So it's a very, very efficient ecosystem that's being generated.
Very much so, yes. Very much so.
Right. So now, talking about that sludge, is that sludge now considered hazardous waste? Pasi has a follow-up question. Is that considered hazardous waste?
It would be considered oily surfactant waste. The only time it would be considered anything else was if something had been cleaned in there that we were unaware of, and then that would be a discussion between ourselves and the company as how it would be classified. But I've never come across it ever being classified as hazardous waste. I guess the only time, and we're getting into a different area here, is in mining. You can get coal dust buildup, so that gets treated separately. But again, that's a separate mining issue.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Steve. That was a great question. Pasi, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, we finally have a situation where microbes, we love microbes. You know, I mean, we also like them in brewing and fermentation and good cheese. But, you know, we love microbes because they can clean parts, apparently, far more effectively than any solvent that you may currently have in your workshop. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing this information. It looks like a very interesting product. And for those of you out there, please look forward to getting a call, an email from the CRC team, because they would love to do a demo to show you what more the Smartwasher could do for you. For the rest of us, enjoy the rest of Friday. Hope you have a great weekend, and thanks for joining a Food Focus Talk Shop.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.